Hi, everybody. My name is Dean Dodge. I am a recovered alcoholic, and it is nice to be here. Thank you, Aldous, for inviting me and to see some familiar faces. You know, the part that I've chosen to concentrate on today, to give most of my focus of these lines, we alcoholics are undisciplined. So we let God discipline us in a simple way we just outlined. And I love the word let. We let God. Holy cow, I'm going to let God do something. When I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, I had no way to live. I had no idea how to live. And it's described pretty well, how I was in the beginning of the book in chapter 4, when it talks about, that the disciplines that I live by had failed completely. It talks about if a mere code of morals or a better philosophy of life was sufficient to overcome alcoholism, many of us would have recovered long ago. But we found that such codes and philosophies did not save us no matter how much we tried. We could wish to be moral. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. That means have all the answers. We could wish to be philosophically comforted. In fact, we could will these things with all our might, but the needed power wasn't there. Our human resources, marshaled by the will, were not sufficient. They failed utterly. I had failed at life. That was me. You know. So what happened was, since my disciplines had failed me at life, which I just read to you, I needed somehow, when I came into Alcoholics Anonymous, to find a new teacher, to find a new way to live. And so what I had to do, you told me that, Dean, we have this program, Alcoholics Anonymous, that outlines these 12 universal spiritual principles. And if you're willing to be taught what they are and to make them part of your life, then you have a really good opportunity to recover, to get better, and to become changed. And so I made the decision, of course, in step 3 that yes, I wanted to become a disciple of my new chosen teacher, which I choose to call God, which whatever you call him is fine with me. There's many, many names. I just call my new teacher God. And I ask for the discipline to be able to follow the directions to practice the 12 spiritual principles, which have allowed me to become changed over all these years. Yeah. What I learned was really fast was I've been coming to Alcoholics Anonymous for many, many years and couldn't stop drinking. And when I finally surrendered, what happened was, I always thought it was the how of the program. I had to mix something up and make this formula right, like baking a cake or changing a tire. And, if I follow the directions, and the result would be I would have, achieved what I was after. But it didn't work for me. I still couldn't stop drinking. And then I found out that there's really what the book says is something completely different, which I'm going to show you. Lace read from the back of the book, The Spiritual Experience. And what it talks about in the end, it says, we find that no one need have difficulty with the spirituality of the program. Willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness are the essentials of recovery. Willingness is a W, a circle and a double, if you W. Honesty, I circle the H. And open-mindedness, I circle the O. When I put those at the bottom of the page, WHO, it didn't say how, it said who. All of a sudden, it was the who of the program. It wasn't the how of the program. How, I was told, was the method by which something is accomplished. And it's going to show me how to accomplish finding the who, finding my new teacher, and to be able to establish a conscious contact, not unconscious, conscious contact with my new teacher, so I could, as I go through my day, each single day, see what I can bring instead of what I can get. I'll tell you a little bit about my drunkalog, just enough to, if you're new here, let you know that I couldn't stop drinking. I couldn't stop drinking to the fact that before I finally surrendered, what happened was I was living in the park for 2 years. I'd blown out all my friends, all my job opportunities, no cars to sleep in, no porches to sleep on, no floors to sleep on, no couches to crash on. No people, no friends, no nothing. It was all about just getting money to drink because I've been drinking for a long time and I liked it. I really liked what it did to me. I like being out of it. But what happened was, and I'll tell you a little bit about it, that I've been coming. First of all, get some stuff out of the way. I'm 83 years old and I've been sober for over 30 years. I came in there, finally surrendered when I was 52 years old. And I've been coming into AA for 12 years before that, getting kicked out of meetings drunk, getting loaded in the bathroom, doing all that stuff that we all hear about and most of us have done one time or another. So I ended up in the way I used to live my life was just gathering money the way I could. And I'd sleep, ended up in the last couple of years sleeping in the park, putting some money together, and I'd get a piss in a sink hotel room. And I'd get in there for a week or a month. Sometimes I even had enough money for a month, do what I could, drink until I could, and then back to the park again, try to get some money. So I'm going to AA for all this time for 12 years, going to meetings. And people, I thought my job was to memorize the book, and then I could become changed somehow. And of course, it didn't work, and I'd be in meetings drunk and quoting the book, and so finally, what happened was after all this time, I ran out of plans. Every plan that I had failed at living life and trying to make life the way I wanted it. And I put some money together again to get a piss in a sink hotel room for a year, for a week. And I had one more plan left, and it's the one that most of us have got in our back pocket: suicide. And so I went up there and I got myself some booze, and I was gonna commit suicide the way they used to do it in the old days from all the reading that I'd done. And I went at it and I started begging alcohol. Just take me, just take me, just take me, just take me. And what happened was I couldn't die. And then I started begging God. I started begging God, God, just take me, God, just take me, God, just take me. And what happened? Something occurred and I don't know what it was. I was in a brownout all that time. What occurred was I ended up the next day at a 6 a.m. meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous where I knew everybody and they knew me. And there was a guy that had been listening to my bull for years. And I said to him, Ken, his name is, Ken, I know what the book says. If you want what we have, we're willing to go to any lengths again, then you're ready to take certain steps. I said, I'm ready to step 4, and I'm stinking of alcohol. And he says, Dean, hold on. Why don't you come back tomorrow and we'll talk some more? And I came back the next day. He saw I was serious because I had a friend detoxing me the way they did it in the old days. And he said, okay, we'll go after the meeting and talk. We went over to the park and sat on the bleachers. And he said, Dean, tell me what's going on. And I said, Ken, what happened up there in that hotel room, I'm not quite sure exactly what it was. But my old ideas of surrender, of going to the winning side, going to the booze, had constantly failed. But something else occurred when I was up there and begging God to help me. And what happened was I had a spiritual surrender instead of the physical surrender. And the spiritual surrender for me was not defeat, but to go beyond resistance. I finally went beyond resistance, and what was there for me was hope. Finally, there's some hope that something can be done, something can be changed. And for me, that was my step 2, my beginning of step 2, is what it was. So what I did was I started working with Ken, and we went through the book, and we did exactly what it said to do. He said to me as we're sitting at that bench, still smelling of alcohol because I'm detoxing the way they did it in the old days. And he said, so let's talk some more about this stuff. What's going on with you? And he knew that I'd memorized the book, or most of the book, not all of it. And I said, Ken, I know I'm powerless over alcohol. I can't manage my own life. And what that means to me is I'm going to drink again and there's nothing I can do about it. See these fancy words up there in the world about can't manage my own life. I thought it was I can't show up for my girlfriend, I can't make it to work, I can't pay my bills. Is those are consequences of not being able to manage to not drink. So if I'm powerless over alcohol, I've formed a habit I can't break, it means I'm gonna do it again. And the can't manage my own life is there's nothing I can do about it. But step two, of course, is something can be done. Just because I can't do anything about it doesn't mean that something can't be done. And that's step two, was step two for me. So what I needed was, since I can't manage my own life, I needed a new manager and a new management plan. Step three, made a decision to turn my will and my life over the care of God as I understood him. To me, that meant I need a new manager and a new management plan. What do I do now? We go find the who. That's what we do, is not the how, Dean, it's the who. Let's go looking. Let's go see if we can go cause his newfound friend. Let's do that. So I took my own inventory, What I did was I did exactly what it said. The best way I can sum up taking my own inventory without doing that, because it's not a 4-step meeting, is all of us have probably one time or another made a recording on our phone or something. Dean's not here, leave a message and I'll call you back as soon as I get a chance. We've all made those kinds of recordings, right? And what we do is, this is my experience and others I've talked to, when I play it back and I hear myself, my recording, it's like, that's not me. Do I really sound like that? And that's what step 4 is about, finding out who the heck I really am. My friends, I've asked my friends, do I really sound like that? And they say, sure, that's exactly what you sound like. I had no idea. In step 4, I had no idea who I really was. So I took those inventories, the resentment inventory and the fear inventory and the sex inventory. And when I was done, I sat down with another human being. Actually, it was with Ken, is what I sat down with. And I told him all about it. I admitted who I was. And Ken became my witness. Because what it does is it says, admitted to God, and to ourselves, and a fellow human being the exact nature of our wrongs. I'm looking for the things that are blocking me from having a conscious contact with God. It was always unconscious. So I'm admitted to God and to myself, but do I still have the ability, am I gaining the ability to finally become honest with myself? So I've got Ken sitting there, a witness, and he's looking at me in the eyes and I'm looking at him in the eyes. And if I tell him a lie, he doesn't know it, but I do. The purpose of the witness for thousands of years, every kind of spiritual program always has a witness that's there for the individual to be closer, to understand more of what's inside. So I went ahead and did that. And I discovered it wasn't what I was, what I was down doing. It's who I'd become because of it. So I went to step 6 and 7. And 6 and 7, I used to think was real confusing, but I don't at all. I have had, and since then, an experience of being able to witness step 6 and 7 that God showed me and continues to show me when I look for it. That's absolutely remarkable. I'll tell you about it later if I've got time. But step 6 and 7, of course, are what? The things that are blocking me. The things that are blocking me from knowing God is what they are. I've just admitted what they are. And so they asked me, am I ready? Here's this word again, let. Am I ready to let God remove from me all the things that I've admitted are objectionable, blocking me from? I have a little card. I brought it out today. I have it attached to my light switch where I get dressed in the morning. It says, Dear Dean, I won't be needing your help today. Love, God. Step 6 and 7. There we go. Step 8 and 9, of course, are the responsibility and restitution steps. I go ahead and go step 8 and ask me all kinds of things. Am I willing to do this? Am I willing to do that? And step 9 tells me exactly how to do it. It gives me really good direction on it, which I'm going to come back to when we get to 11. So in 10, of course, is the clean as you go step. We've all worked in a kitchen and done something with helping other people. What's the first thing you do? You get in a group, you become part of it. The first thing you learn is clean as you go, clean as you go, clean as you go. That's step 10. You just clean as you go on a daily basis, as things go along and we say things or we do things or we think things, that we don't like, that's getting in my way, that's making me uncomfortable, it's moving me out of harmony into collision. I try to clean it up as I clean as I go, and God shows me, gives me ways to do it, which I'm going to get to when we talk to all about 11. And step 11, of course, is the real 24-hour program of Alcoholics Anonymous. I used to think it was, well, we don't drink one day at a time. No, I couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. Today, what I do is I practice what it tells me in step 11, and the result is I don't have to drink one day at a time. By practicing the simple 24-hour program of Alcoholics Anonymous, step 11. And what happens is, I'm going to take you through, before I get into step 11, the prayer and meditation part, which I really like a lot. I hope I got enough time. I'm going to take you through how I talk to God in the morning, almost every morning. So bear with me on this one. What I do is when I start in the morning, if I got food in front of me, I thank God, thank you for all you provide today, food, clothing, and shelter. And I touch my bathrobe and I look at the ceiling. Then I say the serenity prayer. And serenity prayer for me, I make everything real, really personal. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change. What are those? The 12 universal spiritual principles as a new way of life, to accept those as a new way of life. The courage to change the things I can, to trust and rely on you, God, to accept these as a way of life. And the wisdom to know the difference when I'm moved into self-centered behavior instead of selfless behavior, to know right away so I can get back and ask God for the courage to trust and rely once again. And I go to step 1 and I say, God, I'm an alcoholic, I got alcoholism, and I can't not drink on my own by myself. And anytime I try to manage, control, propel, discipline, and direct my life myself, the insanity returns and I drink again. And came to believe that power greater than ourselves. God, you are a power greater than I am. You're bigger than the bottle, bigger than the booze, and bigger than my brain. You can keep me from reaching over and picking up the first drink and direct me and guide me to live life on life's terms. I used to say on life's terms. Today I say on God's terms. Live life on your terms, God. Because what's my book tell me? That God does not make too hard terms to those who seek him. Once again, it's about the who. So the terms that God brings me are the universal spiritual principles we call the 12 steps. They're not Dean's self-centered principles of what's in it for me and what am I going to get out of it. It's what can I bring and where am I coming from is what it is. And I say, God, I offer myself to thee to build with me and do with me as I will. Wherever you want me to go, whatever you'd have me do, take me and let me be your work. Relieve me of the bondage of self. Free me from my big shotism and grandiosity, my wise guyism and sarcasm. Free me from my silent scorn. Free me from my hypocrisy. These are some of the things about myself that come up, which I don't like, would get in my way, get in God's way. And take away my difficulties, my plans, ideas, and designs for Dean. What's in it for Dean? What's Dean going to get out of it? And then I say, God, I pray I don't have to pick up a drink or a drug today. Lift from me, take from me, relieve from me, exorcise from me the want, the will, the desire, the impulse, the compulsion to drink and drug today. Free me from my thinking about drinking. And straight to step 6. And I say, and 7. The 7-step prayer, I let 6 leak into it on the side. I said, God, I'm ready now that you have all of me, good and bad. And now back to 6. Those things I'm not ready, those things I'm not willing, let me be ready. Let me be honest, open-minded, and willing. Let me be honest and say, I don't know, willing to ask for help, open-minded to hear and live in the solution. Free me from being judgmental, quick to anger, develop resentments, and lashing out. I'm lost on it. I'm not, usually my prayers, I don't tell them out loud like this to people. So that, it's grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. When I ask for the strength, what I do is I actually, in my mind, I think about like down the hallway and out the front door, really practical stuff. Grant me strength as I go out from here to do your bidding. When I get to 8 and 9, it's let me right those wrongs of the past wherever possible with alacrity and demeanor. And 10, help me to clean as I go. Help me to continue to watch for my selfishness, self-seeking, and self-centered. Selfishness is all, I want it all for me. Self-seeking, what's in it for me? What am I going to get out of it? Self-centeredness, it's all about me. My self-centered anger. You people won't do what I want you to do. Things aren't the way I want them to be. My self-centered fear, I'm going to lose what I got. I'm not going to get what I want. My self-centered dishonesty, blame. It's always blame for me. Blaming other people. And 11, of course, is right where we're at today. I pray only for knowledge of your will for me and the power to carry that out. The power to carry that out. So how do I live with that? How does that work for me? When it talks about prayer and meditation, I live in San Francisco and we have this great meditation center, the Spirit Rock Meditation Center. And we have the Zen Center. And wherever you live, I'm sure that there are opportunities for everybody to seek out other places and ways to pray and other places to learn how to meditate and to practice meditation. But for me, this is Alcoholics Anonymous. Those places are great, and I attend some of them. But I'm sticking to AA because this is what I needed. So the prayer and meditation for me, I'm going to go through the books where I find it. Everybody here has probably seen what sheet music looked like. Like, you sit at a piano and you've got all these notes and the spaces and the lines drawn, the G clefs, and I don't know the names of this stuff. But if you've seen any kind of sheet music that somebody plays music from a guitar or anything, the sheet records are full with all of these notes and things. When you look at it and think about it, this is what happens for me, is I see that with the notes, we've got space between these notes. And it dawned on me that it's a space between the notes that really makes the music. Without the space between the notes, it would just be noise. So we need the space between the notes to make the music. And for me, that's prayer and meditation. The way the book has brought it to me in a practical way that I can use it every day. So I'm going to go through some suggestions in the book of prayer and meditation, some places where for me, it means Dean, he has an opportunity to spend some time in the space between the notes. In step 3, it tells us what before we take step 3. We thought well before taking the step, being sure we were ready. So we're willing to take it, we think well. There's the action, there's a space between the action, space between the notes that makes the music for me anyway. When we get to how it works, it talks about different things, right? In the resentment prayer, what did it talk about? The famous resentment prayer. We ask God to help us show them the same tolerance, pity, we cheerfully grant a sick friend. And it says, we can't be helpful to all people, but at least God will show us how to take a kindly and tolerant view of each and every one. In the resentment prayer, when people make us angry. So what am I doing? God will show us if I let him. It's this word let again. So the space between the notes are asking God. It says we ask God, and the space between it is God will show us how. In the great fear prayer, on the fear page 68, it says we asked him to remove our fear. There's a no. and direct our attention, whatever it be, and once we commence to outgrow fear, the space between the notes, right? We direct our attention to what he would have us be. How am I going to know unless I'm spending the time? I was taught to say, God, is there anything you want to say to me? And then shut up. Then shut up. The sex prayers, there's a few of them in the sex prayers. We ask God to help mold our ideals and help us to live up to them. How am I going to know what our molding my ideals are and helping to live up to them unless I ask and then I wait for some kind of inspiration? And it says in meditation, we ask God what we should do about each specific matter. The right answer will come if we want it. And space between the notes. So the notes we ask God, and the space is, the right answer will come if we want it. I know I'm harping on this part. It's really a big deal for me. More in a sex prayer. To some about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal guidance in each situation, and for the strength to do the right thing. So I'm asking God, what's my next step? And was it as I'm directed to do in step 11? And then I stop, I wait, to see if I can get the answer, some kind of response from God. And then, of course, we get to step 6, and it talks about letting God remove stuff from us. And then it says, if we still cling to something or not go, we ask God to let us be willing. I don't say, oh, God, let me be willing and give it some kind of like lip service and then go about doing whatever I'm doing. I have to wait and see if I can get some kind of answer. God, is there anything you want me to say to me? We ask God to help me be willing, not tomorrow, to be willing. And what we're looking for is the strength to do your bidding. And then, of course, it says, if we haven't the will to do this, we ask until it comes. There it is. There's always a space between the notes that gives us the opportunity to grow, to learn, if we're willing to spend that time to pay attention. The 9th step has quite a few of them. I won't go through them all. I do happen to like, when we're talking about morning meditation, it talks about we clean house with family, asking each morning in meditation that Creator show us the way of patience, tolerance, kindness, and love. How are we going to know that? Well, first we have to ask, and second, we have to be patient to listen for what it is. I'm going through this because there's a couple of lines that are really important to me and have been. And at the end of step 10, it talks about it. It talks about, much has been said about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction from him who has all power and knowledge, receiving it. And when did I first hear that? In the very beginning, in chapter 2, on page 25, it talks about we have lost the power of choice. All we have left are 2 alternatives. 1, go on to the bitter end, blocking out our intolerable situation the best we could. The other is to accept spiritual help. That's it. No more choice. We have 2 alternatives. And this is the ways that's been given to us, many different ways that we can use during each individual day. We can make that happen. We can receive that strength, inspiration, and direction. I love this in step 10 where it talks about we've entered the world of the spirit. I always love this. I like to talk about, if I'm walking in this really nice woods and I come upon a small, peaceful pond, and in the middle of the pond, floating in inner tubes is like the Buddha, Jesus, and Muhammad, right? These are all the heavyweights and a few other heavyweights that there are. And I'm standing on the edge of the pond and I dip my toe into the pond. What have I done? I've entered the world of the spirit. I don't have to be out there sitting on an inner tube with all those heavyweights. That's not my job. My job is to ask God, what's my next step? Step 11 says, we ask him, what's my next step? So I've entered the world of the spirit, and that's just fine. Whatever God wants me to do from then on, I'm in his hands. So in step 11, of course, when it talks about our 24-hour program, it begins with 5 minutes left. Beautiful. Thank you. It begins with, we've entered the world of the spirit, right? Our next function is to grow. So we, in step 10, it says we continue to watch for selfish dishonesty, resentment, and fear. When these crop up, not if, when these crop up, we ask God at once to remove them. Once again, there we go. So at the bottom of page 10, step 10, page 85, again, where it talks about receiving strength, inspiration, and direction. It says to some extent we become God conscious. Step 11 tells me my job is to improve by conscious contact with God, not unconscious contact. Oh, well, maybe God will take care of it. No, conscious contact. Because I've asked God to be my new teacher and for the strength in order to be your disciple, God. I want to become a student and I want you to be the teacher. And this is the teachings that you've brought to me, these 12 universal spiritual principles that I have the opportunity to practice. And if I follow your directions. So this is what I do. In step 11, it says, when we retire at night, what do? After making our review, we ask God's forgiveness and inquire what corrective measures should be taken. It's the space between the note that makes the music, right? What we do is, the rest of the day, when it all goes through step 10, it says things like, thinking about a day we may face indecision, right? What do? We ask God for inspiration and intuitive thought of the decision. It's space between the notes. It's really simple stuff. It takes 3 seconds to ask God, and 15 seconds to anything you want to say to me. And then pay attention. Pay attention. After we conclude our period of meditation, we ask what our next step is to be. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated enough and ask for the right thought or action. Each one of these things is asking God. That's the note, right? We're making music with God and listen to the music now. That space between the notes that really makes the music is what we do. So for me, step 11 is the 24-hour program. Upon awakening, not upon awakening. It says on awakening. I ask God to direct my thinking, especially be divorced from self-pity, dishonest, and self-seeking motives. When I wake up in the morning, I'm thinking about getting something to eat here and what I have to do. I got stuff. I got work to do. I still work. I got all kinds of things happening. And all those plans are really good plans. They're great plans. But I'm talking about attitude, aren't I? Well, if I ask God to direct my thinking, I'll do all of these things which I really like with a good attitude instead of an old self-centered attitude. That's how practical this stuff really works for me. And then as I go through the day, I prepare for the day. It tells me what to do when I wake up in the morning, what to do as I prepare for the day, what to do as I go through the day, right? As we go through the day, we pause, right? What it tells us to do, and then it tells me what to do when I retire at night. So the true 24-hour program, the one day at a time program of Alcoholics Anonymous, for me is filled with music and joy. Because as I practice these principles and ask for the direction and guidance and inspiration, I find that for me, my attitude is pretty good, and I'm usually trying to figure out what can I bring instead of what can I get. I really don't have a whole bunch else to say. I'm really glad you asked me. Thank you, everybody.
Alice and hi family, my name is Alice and I'm a grateful member of Alcoholics Anonymous. Dean, thank you so much for accepting our invitation and thank you for a beautiful, beautiful talk. Yes, the difference between noise and music is the space in between the notes. That was just lovely. So folks, this is where we get more out of Dean. To quote my sister, happy birthday, Teresa. Let's get more out of Dean. I would love to see people's hands up. And if not, I do have rudimentary reading skills. I will call on you. And so who wants to go first? Come on, Jamie. Thank you for coming in. Let me unmute you. The floor is yours.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jamie. I am an alcoholic. It's very good to be here. Dean, I could have listened to you for another 2 hours. It was just so lovely. I got a lot out of it, and I love how you said clean as you go, clean as you go, clean as you go. And boy, I'm just so glad I'm here tonight. So my question to you is your prayer to God on the easy days versus your prayer to God versus the tougher days.
I actually out loud during the day say, thank you, thank you, thank you, God. Thank you, thank you. It's that simple, you know. I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude so much of the day. Oh, you're muted.
Sherry, thank you for putting your camera on. Come on in.
Hi, I'm Sharon, alcoholic, and thanks so much for sharing. That was great, and all those people who are being of service. The question I have to ask is, have you ever been stuck where you're so defiant about it, like just like I'm doing all the right things, but I can't hear God? And what do you do in those situations?
Yes, is the answer to that. I love this. You know, plenty of times, you know, things aren't going my way. And what I do is I say out loud, and I do actually, people who know me know that I do this. I say, God, my attitude sucks. I got a really crummy attitude right now. You know, I'm a sick man, God. How can I be helpful to you? Save me from being angry. Thy will be done. My attitude really sucks, God. I need your help. Please, God, tell me, what can I do? What can I do? What's my next step? What's my next step? God, how can I be of service? What can I do now? I actually do that, and I do it out loud, and I do it vociferously. And when I talk to God, I talk like this with my hands, my arms, out loud all the time. Guys, like Bill says, my new best friend. So for me, it's really fun. It's no fun being when I got that attitude, but I love what happens is that's the note that I'm bringing to God. That's you know, doesn't blend in with the harmony of his song. And so I'm hoping that God is going to straighten it out again. It always does happen. I get to laugh at myself because it's more than once that happens.
Thank you, Dean. My friend Regina. I love you, Regina. Come on in.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here, Regina Alcoholic. Dean, I'm so glad I got to be here and hear you. I know how beautiful the music is for you. I'm going to take 2 seconds and say I had the privilege of reading our book with Dean line by line, and it totally changed my relationship to this program, this material, and absolutely this beautiful community that we're in. So, Dean, thank you forever. My question is, there's something I hear you say every once in a while. You talk about the pink path. I would love you to share a little bit with us tonight about the pink path. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. The book says, you know, this is, you know, it talks about how it's nice to keep we can't keep our head in the clouds with God, because our real work needs to be done here on the ground. I'm paraphrasing. So what happens is, when I came into AA, people would talk about the pink path. You're on the pink path and you're new. And what's going to happen is, when reality hits, and you're going to crash. And what will happen is, you're going to look around and say, what happened, and what am I doing here? My experience is that as I began to put these principles to work in my life and get to know the who, I was lifted off of the pink path and not down to crash, but to step off of the path, step off of the pink cloud onto God's path. And today I call it the pink path. So the pink cloud is not something to crash on or from, it's something to step from onto a new pink path. governed by God. That's what it is.
Wow. Thank you, Dean. The
It's
pink
fun.
cloud doesn't crash. The pink cloud is a stepping off place to the pink path, the path of following
Yeah.
God. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
My brother Nash, you're up.
Hi, everybody. Nash Alcoholic. Dean, thank you so much for tonight. I really love the music analogy, with the pauses, and that's what makes the music. Um, I think Sherry already kind of touched on the question that I had. When God's playing the music that you don't want to hear, how do you kind of just go through that and just be like, okay, I mean, I think she touched on that, when you're defiant and you don't really want to go do the what you're hearing from him, or I guess, I mean, I'm answering my own question here. When God plays music, I guess it's always lovely. But is there any times when it's not going as planned, and you don't really want to hear that music, you don't like that music?
Yes, but I'm not willing to stay there.
Yeah.
Here's an example. I'm a practical person. Okay, I used to be driving my car and people would cut me off and they'd be at the light would turn green and they wouldn't move in front of me, and they'd be driving too close or too fast or something. I'd be honking my horn at them if they're cutting me off, or they're double parking. I'm giving them the evil eye. I'm not going to fight them because I'm not a fighter. I'm a small guy. But I thought that all the time that these people need to be taught a lesson, and I'm the one that should teach them a lesson. And what happened was I was in collision with life and with this great spirit. I wasn't happy living like that. So what I did was I turned back to the book of what it said, and I saw that this is a defect. I'm judging, and I'm right. And how can I have this? How can I become changed? So I go to the book and I ask God to the resentment prayer on page 67. God, these are sick people. How can I be helpful to them? Save me from being angry. That will be done. I'm trying to change the dialogue in my head from self-centered to spiritual. And it began to work, and it began to work. And finally, what happened was the dialogue said to me, Dean, you're the one that's wrong. So I started saying to God, I'm a sick man. How can I be helpful to these people? Save me from being angry. That will be done. And as it happened, what occurred to me, and this is my experience today, instead of people cut me off, I just let a lot of people in. Hope that answers your question.
Mhm. Thank you, Dean.
Yeah.
Marina, you are next, my friend. You are unmuted. Let's go.
Thank you, Alice. Yeah, my name is Irena. I am an alcoholic. And I love that you put music into my 24 hours. That will be a whole different way of going through the day. And I appreciate that very, very much. The question that I have for you, and this just sounds so basic, but it's something that's been bothering me for a while. At the end of the day, when I answer those questions, was I selfish? And I don't quite understand the definition of selfish. I understand self-seeking, I understand, but just plain selfish. I look at what I've done during the day, and can I point and say, well, was this selfish or was this not selfish? And I really don't know. I don't exactly know what the word means or how it applies to my behavior. And I'd appreciate any kind of insight into that.
Sure. Selfish, it's all, I want it all for me. I want it all for myself. Self-centered, of course, is the umbrella term. That it's all about me. And self-seeking is what's in it for me. What am I going to get out of it? And selfish is I want it all for me. I want it all for me. So the thing when we retire at night, what we're really doing is it tells us to look at how did I do it living in step 10? How did I do it cleaning as I went through the day? And that's what I'm supposed to review. And was I selfish? Did I act as if I wanted it all for me? Again, was it something that I could bring, or was it something that I could get? You know, what was my attitude? Remember on the beginning of page 6, chapter 6, it says we're trying to get a new attitude. So when I look and see, was my day, I spend my day seeing what I could get or seeing what I could give. Selfish, I want it all for me. You know, selfless, what can I do for you? Hope that helps.
Thank you, Dean. Our last question for the evening is my dear brother, John. Come on in.
Thanks, Alice. My name is John. I'm a grateful alcoholic. Beautiful share, Dean. I wanted to ask you because I think it's such a beautiful thing when I get to meet people that have been in the program for a while. So along your journey, has there ever been a time where you've doubted that God is everything? And what was maybe one of the experiences you had that reaffirmed, your belief?
Sure. You know, I was taught this a long time ago that, when step 2 comes alive, which is by the time we hit step 11, we've entered the world of the spirit. When step 2 comes alive, I ask myself, do I now believe that? See, step 2 doesn't say you believe in, it says to believe that. Do I now believe that a power greater than myself has restored me to sanity? And the sanity of alcoholism, of course, is that we don't respond to reason when it comes to alcohol. So the question I have to ask myself is, do I now respond to reason when it comes to alcohol? So I actually look in the mirror so that I can see. Like I said, I'm practical, so that I can see that, yeah, this stuff is true and it's actually happened. Holy cow. And then it's a straight thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Dean. What a joy to have you this evening. Thank you for sharing the gift of your recovery and your walk with us. You are not the guy that came to Alcoholics Anonymous. You are not the man living in the park anymore. You really are a light. Thank you. I want to turn the meeting back over to Michelle. Michelle, it's all yours.
Thank you, Alice. Great question and answer session. On behalf of the Fellowship of the Spirit, Step 11 Speaker Series, I'd like to extend another warm appreciation to Dean for sharing his experience, strength, and hope with us tonight. We'd like to thank all those who helped put this meeting together, our readers, monitors, and all who participated. We look forward to having you next week for another awesome speaker. Do we know who it is?
Yes, our speaker next week is Amy D. And if you guys have never heard Amy D out of Louisville, her information is in the chat.
Thank you. Before closing, I'd like to read a portion of Step 11, Big Book, page 8788. As we go through the day, we pause when agitated or doubtful and ask for the right thought or action. We constantly remind ourselves that we are no longer running the show, humbly asking ourselves many times each day, thy will be done. We are then, I have a dog biting at my hands. We are then in much less danger of excitement, fear, worry, self-pity, or foolish decision. We have become much more efficient. We do not tire so easily, for we are not burning up energy foolishly as we did when we were trying to arrange life to suit ourselves. It works, it really does. We alcoholics are undisciplined, so we let God discipline us in the simple ways we have just outlined. But this is not all. There is action and more action. Faith without works is dead. Oh, I'm sorry. Faith without works is dead. Thank you for letting me be of service. And after a moment of silence for those still sick and suffering in and outside of the rooms, I've asked, please remain muted, and I've asked Randy to read the prayer of St. Francis, and we'll close out with that.
Come on in, brother. It should, there we go.